Hi guys, this is Chris Holt with my social media presentation for Module 5 for EDL 952. I apologize for my voice ahead of time here. I'm a little under the weather, but we're going to get this thing going anyway. When I finished reading the articles and sat down to think about, what I wanted to highlight in my presentation here, I went through demographics first and some of the statistics and things that the survey stated. It was a wide range of ages of people that took the survey, and as well as how many years they had been in education. So it wasn't, I don't think, biased in any way towards younger or older educators. I think it was a pretty good slice of the pie to kind of give you a good indicator of what's happening. I did find it interesting that 61% of all educators are using social media. I thought that might have been a little low. But that's what the survey said. I was not surprised when it said younger educators are more likely to utilize social media and social networks. I think that's probably pretty common. I was interested in the fact that in rural settings you're less likely to find educators using it. Being from a rural setting, I found that interesting. I didn't think that I didn't know that would have that kind of impact, but it did. Facebook being the largest of all the sites being used at 85%. That was not surprising either. Um, I was interested to learn that there are some educational networking sites that I hadn't heard of that I'll be checking out in the near future, but they are in their early stages, as the survey said. Results and conclusions the survey highlighted. Student use is very high. I don't think anyone would argue with that. I think we all see that daily in our lives, working with kids. Probably more so if you're in the middle school or high school, which I am. So I see that a lot. I found it interesting that they said educators, see a very high value in social networking for education. Um, I don't see that in my current district. We have a lot of negative feelings about it from our staff. Um, and some of the things that the survey expressed, I feel our staff feels the same way. When it comes to my third bullet there, them feeling like they're behind in technology use, and they express concerns about how much time it takes them to try and get up to speed with new technology, and how much time it takes them, time they don't have. Um, I think sometimes they use these things as a crutch or an excuse because they don't want to change. They don't want to integrate some of this technology into their classrooms. And some of that's due to the fears that I'm listing, and that the survey pointed out. They're worried about privacy and keeping their personal and professional life separate. And, the potential to have liability issues for themselves or the district if they were to spread confidential information or something on the social media website. But I think these concerns, while real, it is real fear for some of these teachers. But I think it stifles their opportunity to utilize it in a safer way in their classrooms. I think we have to try and give them opportunities to and reassure them that it's going to be okay, that they need to use these things. And that's kind of the way, the direction that education's heading. Obviously, we have to talk about inappropriate use by students. As the article written about Eudora schools indicated, it's a primary source of a lot of conflicts for kids. And as the assistant principal at the high school and junior high, I see that very thing. Many of the kids that I have to deal with, their conflicts are either spilling over from social media. That's where they started, or the kids are going to go to social media and air their laundry, um, and make things worse. So it's very much a problem, um, and students don't understand. They don't grasp the consequences for some of their actions online, some of their behaviors, some of their pictures that they take. Um, we we have brought in speakers. We have um, had in services. We've done a lot of things to try and um, help the students. Our school resource officer does um, a group with kids that when he talks about potential dangers of online situations that kids can get themselves into. So I don't think we've done enough. I think we have to continue to push the education of our students for appropriate use in these areas. Our school as a whole, much like the one at Eudora, the article, suggests that we only respond to behaviors that affect us at school or that are happening at school. If they affect the instruction of students, the educational process, then we would address those issues. But much like the article in Eudora stated, if I was to go to school every day and try and monitor the social media behavior of my, let's say 250 kids in my building, I'd never get anything else done, and I'd never scratch the surface of the stuff that they're actually putting out there. So it's really an impossible task. We have to handle the issues as they come up during the school day, as they're brought to our attention if they're actually affecting things there at school. Some of the things that could happen to schools if they do overstep, if they did want to go, let's say, out searching the internet for things that they think are inappropriate. Things that have happened according to the article is, schools have had to back off of consequences, deal out of punishment and then have to backtrack. That's not a fun place to be with a parent or with a student, where you feel like you have to back off of a consequence. They also, suggested that court costs, legal fees, those sorts of things potentially could come into play where school districts, it's actually costing them money. And then another big one was clarifying their policies. A policy that's has some gray area, may be challenged, and you may have to spend some time cleaning those things up. So when it comes to my overall thoughts on the survey, the article, social media, social networking in general, we live in a digital society where our students have really grown up. With the internet, with touchscreen technology really in the palm of their hands now. It becomes our part of our job, I feel like, to educate them on responsible use of social media, social networking, and the potential dangers, both legal, ethical. They could potentially lose jobs, lose scholarships. There's all kinds of potential negative outcomes for things that they don't even think about when they're posting much of this stuff. I did also really like the quote in the Eudora article where it talked about having an empowered use policy. Instead of saying no, don't do this, and no, don't do that, they said say yes. Say yes. Your kids do have a right to connect to others, using social media to facilitate their learning. And teachers do have a right to use those online environments to further their education, their students' education, their career goals. Give them the yes, as opposed to the negative and the don't do this or don't do that. And then, when it comes down to my staff that I think about, I talked about a little bit earlier, but, we need to give them training. We need to give them opportunities. We need to give them the time and the support that they feel like they need to integrate these things into their classrooms. Because if they don't, it's really having a negative impact on our student body and their futures. These students are going to need these technology skills for their careers in the future. So I really feel like we should be supporting our teachers and our students, and making them feel like social networking and social media is important, and that we do give them the tools they need to be successful. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, and I look forward to learning from the rest of yours. Thanks.